enablers. And what is enablers? Enablers is essentially the stuff that pulls it all together. It's the enabling functions that pulls it all together. And think about it this way. The great organization, the great team, the great people that achieve results is like the roof of the home. It's the archetypal result that we all see. The roof sits on a set of things that hold it there, which is the pillars, the stuff I've shared with you. But we've found that in all great teams and all great organizations, there is a set of laws that holds it together, a set of fundamentals, if you would, like the foundation. And we call those the 4 laws. Why? Because like Christian says, he says, Vusi, tell them that if you go to the top floor at the Carlton Center, floor number 68, then you somewhere stand there at the edge, look down at the streets and up at the skies of South Africa. And then you pray and say, God, I don't believe in gravity. And jump. You're going to see your poo-poo. He said it, not me. Those were his words. Why? Because gravity believes in you. Gravity doesn't need you to agree that it exists, isn't it? It is what it is. So what are these 4 laws of great organizations? And I want you to ask yourself as an individual, whether or not you live by this. Law number 1 is to find the truth, not our version of the truth, the truth. I got the privilege of interviewing Raymond Ackerman once. So I asked him, I said, Raymond, and by the way, by now he'd insisted that I call him Uncle Raymond. Don't ask me why. So I said to him, Uncle Raymond, why do you think Pick and Pay was great when you ran it? And then when you didn't, it wasn't. Someone could argue, and plausibly, you were a bad leader, right? And he took a moment to think, and he said, well, you see, young vusi, he calls me young vusi, he says, when I ran Pick and Pay in my day, I spent a day a week in my stores talking to my customers and my cashiers, finding the truth. I said, I'm sorry, Uncle Raymond, but that sounds a bit salacious. In large, complex organizations, you get these things called reports. There is an inventory report, a financial report, a debtor's report. There are all sorts of reports. You can just pull a report from the system. And then he said, what brings me to this point? He says, every single report you can ever pull from any computer is a version of the truth. It's a lens. Hey guys, we've grown 20%. Why? Marketing says because we've got a great brand. Sales says because we're phenomenal at distribution. Operations says because we deliver all the time. Finance says because we're ensuring capital adequacy. And legal says we're not sure. We'll give you an opinion in 2 weeks. So finding the truth is about reaching the single conclusion to every question. Law number 2, difficult for me as a man of color to admit, but it's true. Size, it turns out, isn't everything. Yeah. Not that size is important. Shoe size, very important. It turns out the aim of great organizations is actually to be the best at what they do, not the biggest. You know, it's interesting. Best might give you biggest. Biggest doesn't mean best. Isn't that interesting? And perhaps to test it, because it's a controversial point. Hands up if you have ever had a Nokia phone. Quickly, let's get a sense. Hands up if you have one today. Is your hand up? We need to talk. Come see me after this. There's a charity that you can donate it to. What made Nokia great? QWERTY keyboard, right? And the screen, the aggregated communication management system. Nokia was the best. Most of you had your hands up if you ever owned a Nokia. How many of you here knew who the Nokia CEO was? What their share price was? Market capitalization. How many of you here cared? Yeah, here's a controversial point, if you'll allow me. It turns out your customers don't care if you're successful or not. It only turns out they care if you're significant in their lives. If you're not, so what? And so the biggest mistake we make often in business is to assume that our customers actually care. Oftentimes they don't. You know it too, because we battle with this world of customer loyalty. Right? So, what killed Nokia? BlackBerry. Hands up if you ever had a BlackBerry. Hands up if you have one now. Ma'am, you need Jesus. BlackBerry was great. Slightly better QWERTY keyboard, better area communication management system, phenomenal communication interface. They built the first version of what we have today, this idea of communicating over an IP protocol. First it was called Research in Motion. Today you have WeChat and WhatsApp. They started that whole story. But what happened to them? They got left behind. They went from best to biggest. They started staying big for the purpose of staying big. Who walked in? Apple, with a single bit of design logic. You know what the design logic was? Why does the phone need a keyboard in the first place? Yeah, because the keyboard is wasted real estate. Half the time I'm on my phone, I don't need it. So why don't I have a keyboard that's there when I need it and not when I don't? My mom's retired. I know because she now phones every day. But my mom is a technophobe. I mean, when I say technophobe, I mean really technophobe. My mom still thinks Scott is on Mnet. It's like, Ma, there's no more Mnet. Loving is gone. Remember loving? There's no more loving, Ma. My mom she's stuck at like a certain age. But when she retired, she started going to church every second day. We're Roman Catholic in our home. And when I say Roman Catholic, I mean like devout Roman Catholic. I went to church so much, I'm on credit. I don't go anymore. I sent an email to God. I said, when I'm on overdraft, I'll come back. I don't just go anymore. So my mother goes every second day, and she's one of the ladies of the St. Anne's. You know them. They wear this purple stuff. She's been to the Vatican 3 times. Ask her, she'll tell you. So when she retired, I noticed she used to go to church carrying 4 books, 4 massive books. She had the King James Bible, the Holy Bible, the Catholic Bible. She had the hymn book and a 4th book. It's like, Ma, why do you need so many books? No, Danam, this one is for the hymns. This one is for the Father Scriptures. I said, all right, Ma, all right. So I bought my mom, as you do, an iPad. My mom had a knee surgery, which means she hobbles when she walks. And she's got a bit of an arched back, and she uses a stick. So I want you to picture the scene. So she goes to church, she hobbles along with the stick, and she's got an iPad. The problem now is my data costs are through the roof. So I said, Ma, how was church? She says, woo, it was amazing. I said, what? She says, you know the other ladies, they're always tenning. I said, and you? She says, me? I bookmark and I swipe. Great, right? More, I'm done, I promise. Law number 3, vision excites. If you want your customers to get excited about what you're doing for them, about what the business can deliver for them, give them a vision of what it looks like. You know, numbers are great. We're going to help you grow this by 10% or that by 15%. But often it goes over people's ears. What they really want to hear is what is the vision of what it is when it's done and achieved? What does it actually look like? And this is actually interesting to see. In all organizations, you'll find this thing called competing values. At the top is where you find the good people of HR. Anyone here from HR, by the way? I know we're talking to the distribution side. Anyone here from HR? No one? You? Hi. Stand up. Let them give you a round of applause. Please, you must. No one here knows what you do. Isn't it interesting? Like, no one knows. What does HR do? Not sure. It's payroll. I'm kidding. HR says, guys, let's collaborate. Let's work together. Kumbaya, my Lord. Kumbaya. Got HR, we're losing market share. They said, yeah, we need a team building. As HR says this, who walks in? Operations, usually distribution. They go, no. Oaks, listen. We need to be competitive. We've got to do things fast. We've got to get to the customer quickly, which means if the Oak doesn't deliver, I fire him. Don't tell me develop people nonsense kumbaya. Okay. If you don't like it, I'll meet you at the CCMI. And as they say that, walk in my favorite department, sales and marketing. How do you know somebody works at sales or marketing? They're never at the office on a Friday past 12 o'clock. They're always in off-site client meetings. Fantastic. What is that? No idea. It's at the Dross. Love sales and marketing, right? Sales goes on comms, says, guys, we need to do new stuff. We need to break the mold. And then finance says, why? Sales goes, why? Because they may take our lives, but never our freedom. What? And a sales says this, walk in my favorite department, the only departments everybody agrees we hate. Finance, risk, legal, compliance. Or as we know them more commonly, the ones who always say, no. Yeah, see? And they go, no, listen. We've got a set of standard operating processes, all right? The law is the law. It says the customer's got to fill in line number 34 in the application form and tick the box. I don't care if the customer doesn't like it. That's what you have to do, all right? Thank you very much. Thank you. Very good. Why is this important? Because it turns out to build a great team and a great organization, you actually need all four of these. If you're having a fight internally in the business and the team, you should be having it. It's important. It must happen. You must be driving towards it. That is the only way you ensure that you build a great team. And then the fourth and final law is to lead by the business case. Lead by the business case. What's that mean? It's important to remember that all of us here are individuals and human beings. All of us come from a particular way of seeing the world. We're all socialized to see things a certain way. And what happens is we bring that with us to work. So, Mo, you guys remember Fees Must Fall? Yeah? So 2 years ago, when the Fees Must Fall marches were happening, I went to show solidarity with some of the learners. And I marched with them from Pretoria University to the Union buildings. It's very long. As you can tell, my complexion hasn't recovered from it. But I went and, you do the right thing. And whilst we were marching, there was a young fellow who came and chatted to me. Hey, I love your work. I said, humbled. And he said to me, great. Can we take a selfie? I said, no, we don't take selfies. This is a march. We're sweating. This is umzabalazo, And he said, he introduced himself and he said, this is what I do, or this is what I'd like to do, etc. He had an interesting problem. He's finished his degree, hasn't yet gotten the paper because he hasn't paid his third year fees. And he's supposed to do his CTA, which he can't do until he gets his degree. He can't get the degree because he can't afford to pay for it. He can't pay for it because he doesn't have a job. No one will hire him because he doesn't have the degree. So he's in this circular state of nothingness. So he says, this is my state. Would you pay for my degree? I said, absolutely not. I don't believe in charity. But we put out an internship in the company. You can come and be an intern. We'll pay you. And if you want to save money and pay, that's on you. He says, great. Comes and joins the firm as an intern. What does he do? Effectively, he fetches my prints, makes me tea. What interns do. But I said to him, if you come into the firm and spend some time with us, I promise you two things. Number one, I will introduce you and expose you to things you otherwise would not have seen. And number two, I will accelerate your work readiness by 10 years. Deal? Deal. Young guy, Nkosinati, this high. So he comes into the firm, he comes into meetings, he sits down, he has a little notepad, he sits and he just keeps quiet. He says nothing. And when I look at him, he knows if I look at him and wink, means I need tea. My sugar's running low. Yeah? Executive. So, as luck would have it, we're sitting in a meeting. We'd made a particular investment in a company based in Cape Town. And we had a very specific problem with this company. And the problem was we invested in it and was sold a certain story by management. And that story has since not been the case. We can't get rid of management because we've been through 2 separate capital raisings. And we didn't participate in the capital raisings because we no longer trusted management. And we're diluted down from 64 to 18%. Big problem. However, we still own the stock. So what do? So we're sitting in the meeting having a conversation, me and my 2 business partners. And then comes this little voice from the back. He says, you guys know there's a way of doing this. I said, what is it? He says, there is a weighted average of votes that's actually based on risk, not shareholding. What are you talking about? 15 years in corporate finance. I've never heard this before. He says, that's how Christo Visa is the largest shareholder block in Pepco, but he only owns 13% of Pepco. It's because he invested the earliest. And so the memorandum of incorporation, the founding documents of the company say his votes are based on when he invested, not how much he owns. He took the largest risk. Fascinating. Now, what do we need to do that? He says you need 60% of the board to approve it. Really? 3 of us in the meeting, all 3 of us sit in a 5-man board. This is the 60%. So we log the papers at the SIPC. Papers come back, we notify the other shareholders, we change the structure, we vote, we get rid of the management, put in a new management, the business is now profitable and generating cash flows and making money. But my point here is this. When he made the suggestion, let me be honest, there was a part of me that thought, this little boy, who's he? What's this about? It is. Because I thought, he doesn't even have his degree yet and is sitting in a meeting now telling us how things should be done. And then I realized that I have my own biases that I myself have to unlearn. That actually, rather than adjudicate his opinion on the base of from whom it is coming, I should adjudicate it on whether or not it holds on a business case, leading by the business case.